Hey everyone, Rodney here at Cleves Tech, and today I'm going to show you how to do automatic masking with Fooocus. Now, this is not using the default version of Fooocus, so you will need to install a different fork of Fooocus, and I will leave a link in the description, but I think you may find this one feature enough to use this fork, and it's actually the fork that I use primarily. The default Fooocus does not have this feature at the moment, but if you want, this is the fork that I use, Mashb1t's fork of Fooocus. He's the one that currently maintaining the primary version of Fooocus. And a lot of the new features end up in his first and then move over to the other one. This is one feature that hasn't moved over. I can't remember the reasoning behind it, but it's not, I don't know when or if it's going to make it over into there anytime soon. But to install this, it's the same as installing regular Fooocus. You go down to the download section. You download the zip file and you extract it, run it. I have a video on how to do that. Just do it on here instead of the regular Fooocus. There is the Google Colab version as well, but that's the version that I'm using. One of the reasons I like it is it does have the segment anything model, which I will go over, but I'm going to go over some of the other ones first, and then we'll dive into this one, which I think is more powerful and more useful in most cases. We have Fooocus open here, and like I said, it's not the standard Fooocus. This is Mashb1t's fork of Fooocus, so you do need to be on that. And you can't install it, I don't think, with Stability Matrix or anything, so you would have to install it outside. You can install it alongside a regular any other fork of Fooocus. Just put them in separate folders. And then you can share the models, you can share outputs, whichever works for you if you want to set all that stuff up. We have our standard interface here. I've gone ahead and checked off input image. I assume that you know some basics of using Fooocus. Now we are in our Inpaint and Outpaint section here, because that's what we're going to be using. But you'll notice there is no additional features here because those are hidden. So we're going to go over to the Advanced tab and then check off Developer Debug Mode. Now, once you've done that, you want to be in the Inpaint tab, and we're going to scroll down. You're going to find this Enable Mask Upload. Now, that does still allow you to do what it traditionally does. When you check it off, you can upload your own mask. Once you've done that, you'll notice you have this mask upload area, which you can upload a mask to, but we're also going to have below that this section. I'm going to walk you through. You'll notice there's several different models in here we can use. I want to show you each one, what they basically do. Most of these do the same thing. They just do it a little bit differently. And that is they will mask the person. So if you want to remove the background, change the background, things like that. So we're going to use this general use one. Initially, I'm just going to click on that. And as you can see, it highlights the person and creates a mask. Now, the one thing you need to keep in mind is now that it's gone ahead and masked that, the area that would get generated now if we do anything is going to be the white area. And in most cases, you're not going to necessarily want to do that. In this case, you probably want to change what the background is or something like that. So we would need to go up here and invert the mask. Now, at this point, we can go in here, and let's say I wanted to change the background, and I wanted to put, a park. So we're going to put her in a park, and we're going to just hit generate. Okay, now I'm going to show you, let me just reduce this number of images. We don't need that many for what I'm going to demo. So when we look at this, it looks pretty good overall, but if you look real closely, let me pull up the image so we can enlarge that. Something I want to show you here, one thing you're going to need to adjust. So if you look at this, you're going to notice the edges sometimes can be a little bit messed up. And the easiest way to solve that problem, because of how it's going to select everything, is let's go back to our Inpaint tab in here. This is under the Developer Debug options. You're going to find this Mask, Erode, or Dilate. Now, when we generated, it's going to take those pixels exactly and regenerate around them because we inverted it. Now, if we wanted to expand it a little bit, one or two, or whichever, I find one or two usually is more than enough. You only just need to do it a tiny bit. And what that does is it expands the white area, the masked area. Now, the problem is right here, we're doing an inverted mask. So I actually wanted to do this down to, I'm going to go down to -2 because I want to do it the opposite, because I'm doing it inverted. But if I was doing it the other way, I would usually use a 1 or a 2. But usually back and forth in those, you want to adjust that, and that'll make up for that. So let's go ahead and generate now, and I'll show you the difference. Now let's zoom in on one of those, and we'll see the difference here. So the edges are a little bit better on that one, and on this one as well. Yep. Oh, she's got finger problems. That's gotta hurt. Anyways, that's the basics. That's the general use one here. It works pretty well for that sort of usage. And like I said, the biggest thing is to remember is that mask, erode, or dilate. And depending on if you're inverting the mask or not, you'll want to go to the positive or the negative for that. So let's go through, and I'm going to show you some more of these different ones. So we have the first one is the U2 net. We generate a mask on that one. We're going to get a similar result with that one. And this one is going to be pretty much very similar as well. And same idea. They all do it a little bit differently. They'll get different results, so you can try out each one. And the Silhouette one or whatever does it as well. So those are those. Now, we also have this one here, and that is for clothing. Now, we have in the second drop down, when we do that, we have full, upper, and lower. I find these can be pretty hit or miss. I don't have the best luck with this. And I'm going to show you, see, we don't get anything here. I'm going to show you in a moment what I feel is the better option. But you could go ahead. These do, let's go with the pants and see if we can change those. Okay, so we have the pants here, and then we can put red pants. Oh, no. Stop that because we did not invert the mask. And I do want to change this slider. I'm going to change that up to, well, we'll just change it up to 1. That's probably going to be enough. Well, let's go back down here. I never changed this back to just regular. So we're going to go back here. And now we'll do red pants. Okay. So we got everything set. We got our mask, erode, dilate to 1. It's not inverted. We have our pants masked. I've gone to the standard Inpaint, and I have red pants up here. We're going to generate. Okay, and we have our red pants. Now, looking at this, I probably want to change that a little bit more. So we can go ahead in here. I'm going to increase that to 2. And we're going to generate again and try that again. Let's see how those one came out. Should be a little bit better. Yeah, the edges are much better on that. And you can, you'll want to play around with that and adjust that as you see fit. That's how the general ones work overall. I've only used this once or twice because I don't normally. But if you're working with anime stuff, this one works a little bit better for the anime, but it's the same idea as the other ones where it will highlight the person. It seems to work better on anime because if we look at some of these other ones and we generate, we're not going to get quite as good of results. So when it comes to that, this one seems to work much better. And same idea, we're going to go into the negative on this because we're going to invert, and I've already changed this. So we'll put them at a beach. And that's how that one works. So that one's better for anime than the other ones. So if you're using anything like that, you can take advantage of that. Okay, and on to our last model that I want to demonstrate would be the Segment Anything model. Now, this one I find is the most powerful one in here, and it's the one I use more than the other ones usually. Obviously, if I'm just changing the background, then I'll use the other models. But on this, I will use the Segment Anything for most stuff. Let me give you a quick rundown of how this works. So for this image here, let's say we wanted to select the hat and change the color of the hat. Now, I've already gone ahead and I have my settings configured. Just to let you know, if the color looks slightly different than the previous part of the video, I'm in the middle of building a new PC for recording, and I've switched over to that and everything, so that's why there's a slight shift in everything. In case you're wondering, it wasn't your imagination. So in here, I've selected the SAM model at the end. That's the last one on the list. You'll notice there's now a prompt here as well, and you have the advanced options, and I'll cover those real quick while I'm showing how this works. This is probably the best way to demonstrate it. So let's say I wanted to select the hat here. I could just type in hat, and with the default settings, I'll hit generate to generate the mask. Depending on it, the first time you use this, it does have to download the models and everything to do this, so that can take a minute or two. Now, once I do that, you'll notice it didn't do a very good job at selecting that mask. So this, I can demonstrate how to solve that. A couple different options here. In the advanced section, we have, and I'll cover the quantization. It makes it run, it seems, less memory and things like that. I didn't find that I needed to use that. I didn't see any advantage overall for the most part. But if you do run into anything, like if you're limited on resources, you might want to check that off. When this sort of thing happens, one option would be is to change. I'm not going to cover the text threshold. I don't find that changing that really does too much. I don't fully understand it. Now the box threshold, that has to do with how much gets selected. So if we were to reduce this, it would lower the threshold. It would probably select less. If we were to increase this up, it should select more of that hat. The other option would be to change the model. And here you have 3 different options for the model. B is the base model. Then you have L, which is the large, and then H is the huge. Now, if you use the base model, that's what I use almost all the time, because in most cases that will work, and it's much faster than using the other ones. When I use one of these other ones, it uses a lot more memory. It takes longer, and in most cases, I find I don't even really need it. So that's usually the last thing that I'll change when I'm trying to get the results that I'm looking for. So in this, I could go ahead and I can increase that box threshold a little bit. I'll hit generate mask again. And now in theory, that should hopefully grab more of that hat by doing that. And there we go, it did. Now, there is one other option here. So you don't even usually have to do that. So we'll go back to there. And that is just to be more specific with your prompt. So I'm going to put yellow hat here. The advantage to this is if there's more than one hat, it'll select a specific hat. But also, you'll notice here when I generate the mask using yellow hat, it will, or it should, select more of the, there you go. It selects more of the hat. And that's all, for the most part, there is to the segment anything model, the basics of it. I'll show you more details on how to get the most out of it. And I'm also going to show you that it doesn't work in every single circumstance. There's certain circumstances that this is not going to work well for what you're looking for. But let's go over to this image here. So let's say on this image, I wanted to just change this gentleman's tie. So I'm going to select that tie. I'm going to hit generate mask. Now I haven't changed any of the other options because as I find in most cases, the base model will default and grab what I need. Now it's selected and masked the tie off on that image. I've also set the mask erode or dilate here as well. Let's go up to 2 on, well, we'll go to 2 on this. And now I'm going to do a yellow tie and I'll hit generate. Okay, now we have a yellow tie. And we can select from whichever one we like. We'll bring that down. The advantage of this one is not just clothing. For this one, we could do, well, let's try something else here. We'll try a plant and see what happens. And it's gone ahead and selected, well, not the greatest of job. Let's go ahead and we will have it select the clock and see how well it does that. And it selected the wall clock. So if we wanted to change that, we could then go ahead and we could change that to a painting of a sailboat. And we now have our painting of a sailboat. And from there, we could change the picture over and now let's do eyes. And we're going to go ahead and generate a mask. And it's now selected the eyes, and I could do glowing red eyes. And we have our glowing eyes. Now we could try changing the monitor. Well, let's do computer monitor. Oh, I can't even spell. There we go. And we have our computer monitor. Okay, so we have our monitor selected. Let's do a monitor with cat image on it and see what it does. Okay, for that one, I didn't get exactly what I was going for, but I do like that one. So we're going to keep that image. And then, oh, what do we want to select next? Well, let's select change the surface of the desktop. Wood desktop surface. There we go. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna set this to 2. Looks like it selected it properly, so I think we're good here. And I will change that to let's go with the glass desktop surface, because that should go horribly wrong for this. But I'm not quite liking the results, so what I could do at this point is we can add to this, so I can mask that off because that book is going to cause a problem most likely. So let's mask that off. We'll try again. See if we get a little bit better results. And we have our glass desktop surface. I'm just going to go with this one. I like that one better. And let's change the hat. Okay, we have our white hat now. So that should give you a pretty good idea of how this model can work. Now, there's a few tips I'm going to give you here, just things that I've learned and how this will or won't work perfectly. So one of the things is, let's say you get a mask generated that's not exactly what you want. So you'd like to adjust that mask outside of Fooocus and upload it. You can do that. So what you're going to need to do, though, to do this is once you've generated, you have the mask you plan on, you want to click off debug and paint preprocessors in here. And you're going to hit generate. Now, what this will do is it's going to generate that mask. You don't want to download this because it's not the right size. As you can see, it's cropped in on that image as it normally does, and it does the rescaling. So in order to get this the exact same size as the picture, what you're going to want to do, there's multiple ways of doing this. One, you can mask different parts of the image so it does the whole thing. But the other option here is when you want to do this, first go to here, choose that all the way to 1. What that'll do is it'll mask the whole image, and this will create a mask for that whole image. It's the same resolution. And then we can change that back afterwards. So now we have that mask. If we want to, we can download this, and we can go ahead and just download it to wherever we want to save it. And then we can open that in our whatever image editor you want, and you can edit that mask separately, and then go back into here, and then you can just bring that mask in here and upload it. So if you can basically you can use this to help yourself help generate a mask, and then you can fine tune it outside of Fooocus in whatever tool you want to use, GIMP, Photopea, whatever app that you want to use, Photoshop, and to generate the mask. Just remember, whatever is white is the masked area and black is the unmasked area. That's one tip. Now, the other thing I do want to point out that this is not always going to be a solution for everything. I'm going to go back to this image here as a perfect example. So if we were to go ahead and do the dress here, So let's go ahead and select the yellow dress. I'm going to generate the mask on this one. Now this one didn't do a very good job, so I'm going to go into here, try a different model. I will get this to select that dress. Okay, so now we've selected the dress, and let's go ahead and we're going to just do a blue dress here. Okay, this should demonstrate what I'm trying to show. Now, it did give me an orange dress instead of blue, and that came out halfway decent, would need some adjustment, but the key here is the blue dress. Now, it did change the blue dress, but the one thing you're going to notice is the shadows and everything are still influenced. The yellow is still casting on the rest of the image, so that's not going to look right. Now, in this case, if I really wanted to do this, I'd probably just mask off manually the arms, regenerate the arms, things like that. But it is something to keep in mind that this isn't always going to be a perfect solution. It's just not a matter of, boom, changing the color of something and it solves the problem. Now, what you could do is, in this circumstance, is do a similar color dress and maybe change the design would be fine. That wouldn't be an issue. But when you're trying to change the color, that's the sort of thing you're going to run into. So just keep that in mind. This is not just a perfect solution to change everything. The other thing is going to be the detail around the purse. You'll notice some of the intricate details here, but that can be corrected afterwards if you ever need to. And that pretty much covers what I wanted to show you when it comes to automatic mask generation and Mashb1t's fork of focus. If you found this video helpful, please do consider hitting the like button. I do want to mention I do have a Patreon set up if you're interested in helping support the channel so I can make more content, or you can just buy me a coffee. I do now have a dedicated system to record, so that should make things a little bit easier. Next up, I'm going to need to be getting a better video card for image generation because it still isn't powerful enough for what I need to do. Thanks for watching and have fun creating.